Welcome to Crotoni Entertainment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Bree.
And this one is for Bree. This is our happy birthday episode to Bree. Her birthday was on September the 22nd. We filmed this the weekend following it with all these colors.
Because Chris decided to go crazy, go nuts for my birthday models.
Bree specifically requested that we do Diva Talks, and I decided it was not appropriate for me to just paint Diva Talks the way we normally paint Diva Talks. We decided to go a little bit nuts. I don't even know all the colors I used on this mini. So this is really more of a talking about your birthday mini and talking about some various techniques and some ideas.
Okay.
Now, looking at some photos of Diva Talks, her bodice, corset, whatever you call it, is a blue. It's not actually black. Some of the photos from the actual Turbo series show it as black, but I found a promo photo that tells us that she actually wears blue and purple. Instead of just black everywhere. So we started with a dark blue there, and while that is kind of drying, we're able to transition to our next color, which is a bright blue. I think this is the Vallejo game color Electric Blue.
It's such a cool, I love this color.
I painted her boots and her gloves this blue. Now, these are black.
These are black, but
she's got like these black leather, I don't want to use certain words on the channel. But she's got these black leather boots and gloves.
That would perhaps indicate to somebody of another persuasion that she was available.
They're also made for walking.
Yes.
And then the purple, we're using our Vallejo game color. I think it's actually called dark blue, but it's definitely a purple shade. Or at least a blue with a very heavy bias towards the red end of the spectrum, which is going to make it more purple. And this is the color of her leather skirt. It's not actually black again. So basically, the first step on all of this is base coats. You can kind of see I'm not being super precise. I'm being a little sloppy because this is some other than the skin. These are kind of the lowest points of the model. So it doesn't matter if I get paint kind of on the raised areas, because I'm going to be painting over them later. It's always easiest when you're going to be painting sloppy or painting base coats that you do it on the lowest point of the model, so you can make corrections later. We're going to go ahead and base her skin as well. And if you actually look at the promo photo, the corset doesn't actually close.
No, it does not.
It does not. It comes close to closing, but you still see all the way down, the center there with her stomach. So we're painting all of her flesh areas, Bugman's Glow.
You know what my favorite part about Diva Talks is?
What's that?
She's like the anti-Rita.
The anti-Rita.
Yes. Rita was like fully clothed from head to toe.
Correct.
There was like her face was the most you ever saw of Rita's skin. And then you get Diva Talks. And there were parents who were like,
oh, Diva Talks she was still wearing more than Zed.
Yes, I will give you that.
But
no metal falls in this one.
Yeah, but Zed was still there might be. It's just not sculpted on the model.
Yeah, Diva Talks. But wow. Yeah.
So
I love her. Ooh.
Yeah, there appears to be a little skipping on the preview. I don't know if that's actually in the final video or not. So there might be some slight corruption to the video here. Corn red, Citadel corn red, or just any dark red will do. Honestly, this is for her cape. I started in that area, kind of under her right arm, where her arm is tucked, with a small brush. You can graduate to a bigger brush when you're in kind of the bigger areas, but you're just getting your dark red. Just all over the cloak.
Yeah.
So front, back, sides. This
up, down, left, right.
This is an easy step.
A, B, A, B.
As I've mentioned before, I'm dipping my brush in water, and then I'm putting in the red paint. You see right there was still. I actually had to clean this model because the mold lines were so bad on the box that the whole box that Diva Talks came in. The mold lines are so bad I couldn't ignore them, and there was a little piece of plastic stuck to her cape there.
Now it should be noted that Chris has a few things every now and then that will make him a little bit nutsy about models, and mold lines is one of them.
That's false, because I don't clean hardly any of the Power Rangers figs.
No, you haven't. But they also have it.
These were significant on this model. Actually, this whole box. I had a problem with this whole release You see, I just did a little bit of quick touch up on the blue there because my fingers got on it, rubbed a little off. Her hair is actually black with purple highlights. So we're actually starting with Vallejo Game Color Hex Purple. Just painting her whole hair doing that because we're going to darken it up later.
Okay.
I had a problem with this whole release. Divatox came out at the same time as the Forever Rangers or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
The new Alpha and the Rocky, Adam, Aisha, and Kat. These models were not even remotely in proportion to each other.
Oh no, they're all over the place.
Yeah, Aisha's got kind of that action pose, but if you were to stretch her out into a standing pose, she's like 8.5 feet tall. Rocky's head is tiny.
Yes, it is.
It's not in proportion to any Ranger box that came before it. And I mentioned this on the Facebook, and Jonathan Ying actually responded to this. So for those of you who are not familiar with Jonathan Ying, he is the creator of the game. Most of you probably are familiar with him.
Yeah.
He's full of crap. He's full of crap. His response was that the proportions was a decision made by the manufacturing plant.
It might have been.
No, they just print what is sculpted and sent to them. They might manipulate the size of the overall thing, but they're not making Aisha 8 feet tall. They're not shrinking Rocky's head. He's full of crap. That's not how manufacturing works. At any rate.
And now we will never, ever, 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 ever get...
We were never, ever, ever going to get sponsored anyway. Renegade Games has the person they like painting their minis, and it is not us. But we're going on to the leather here. And here's where we take that Citadel Black Templar that we have used constantly. So you guys must have this in your collection by now. And we're painting over her hair and her gloves and her boots.
But the cool part is because we're using a contrast and not a full paint, it will shine through.
Correct. It flows into the recesses. Just like we've talked about before, the base coat of your contrast matters. So here we're gonna mix a purple with this darker purple.
To get a purple that you like.
Yeah, just get a slightly lighter shade because the jumping contrast of colors was too great. I wanted something not quite as obvious for the highlights on the skirt. But the properties of the contrast, the base coat matters because the highest point, theoretically, of any mini is going to have the smallest amount of this contrast glaze on it.
Right.
And we want just a little bit of that blue to shine through. Because this is a lazy, easy way to get a blue tint in your black without trying to highlight your black with blue and running the risk of making it look too stark. It's the difference between Batman from Batman the Animated Series and Batman from Batman the Animated Series whenever they shined a spotlight on him, he was pure blue.
No, that's true. Yeah.
That's the difference we're talking about. So, for those of you who have already hit dislike because I said something negative towards Jonathan Ying, we all know we love his game, but I feel like he took a little bit of a knee-jerk response to the proportions of these models. They're still good models. They're just out of proportion. And my big problem with it, and the reason I gripe with it, is I had a great plan for what to do with that Red Ranger. And I don't think I can do it anymore. So that lighter purple that we mixed with the darker purple, we're going to do that as one additional highlight here on the skirt.
There you go.
Take a really fine brush. All we're doing for these highlights is we're looking for the folds of the skirt. And wherever there's a fold of the skirt, we leave the darkest color in the fold, and we do a lighter color on the more raised areas. And then when we go to the next highlight, we do it again. So we're going to go ahead and dip into some of our flesh tones now. And here's where we're going to highlight that Bugman's Glow with Cadian flesh tone. Also a Citadel color. As I mentioned before, I am starting to transition out of Citadel paints into other brands, but I still have many Citadel paints. But all the flesh areas we're doing with this Cadian flesh tone. Again, same thing. We're just leaving the recesses that darker color.
And when we do a model that is not from a birthday, and therefore is extra AF, we'll kind of show you some of the other easier ways to do flesh tones, because there are, thanks to contrast, some really, really simple ways to do flesh. Like, there isn't a ton of flesh in many of the Power Rangers.
So our next highlight, by the way, is the Kislev flesh. And again, same thing. We're going to leave a little bit of the Bugman's Glow visible in the deepest recesses.
Yep.
We're going to leave a little bit of the Cadian flesh tone visible as well, and then we're going to put the Kislev over that.
Yeah. But we will show you guys some easier ways to do flesh than doing the 3, 4 5 highlights depending on your flesh.
Well, this model deserved special attention.
Yes.
This is the model Bree asked for. And Bree called me out on something I didn't even realize what I was doing. I've painted several women rangers.
Yeah.
But Bree had pointed out when we were trying to arrange for our next Age of the Grid battle report, she was asking which woman villain she can play, because I guess she still wants to play a villain side of it. And
because I'm never going to get to play the good guys. I fully accept
you
this in
are
my life.
absolutely welcome to play the good guys, because Julian is not playing with us. You're putting restrictions on yourself. But anyway, the next step is this Kislev flesh again, but we're going to mix it with some Pallid Witch flesh.
Let's lighten it
So
up a bit.
we're going to bring our palette over. We're going to take a little bit of the Kislev flesh. We're going to put it in there. We're going to clean this particular brush. We're going to bring in our Pallid Witch flesh. We're going to do the same. We're going to put a little bit in there.
And then we go mix. Mix this.
And then we're going to get a little bit of water. We're going to dab it in there.
Thin it out a little bit, because the flesh tones do get a little.
All of them get thick. I've said it before, but I don't usually show it. I do dip my brush in water before I dip it in paint to thin it down a little bit. But we're putting this on, again, the highest high points. And there'll be a still of Diva Talks at the end of the video where you'll really be able to see kind of much better the lines of where I kind of drew, because there you can kind of make out her thigh muscles a little bit. So you can kind of see it here in the video clip, but you'll see it really in the end. Obviously, her cleavage leaves for some areas with some natural highlighting. It does. Let's just call it what it is. All right, it does. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to darken up the cape and the cape alone. Now, we're not going to darken up the collar of the cape, and we're not going to darken up the kind of the armory pauldron-y type pieces hanging over her skirt,
right,
or the top of her corset. We're not going to darken up those, but when I again looked at the reference photo, there was an obvious darkness to the cloak that didn't exist on the collar or anywhere else. So we used some Nuln Oil to add some additional shade to that. We're going to highlight it the same as we highlight the rest of it here shortly, but we want that Nuln Oil to give that extra shade of darkness. We're going to pull out our Citadel Retributor Gold. Everywhere that's supposed to be gold, we're just going to simply paint gold. This is going to be the belt. This is going to be the lacing of the corset.
Her mask. And I guess it wasn't her clasp?
Well, yeah, she's got this necklace type thing going on, and then she's got her LA Raiders shoulder pads.
She, if Diva Talks was going to make a run at you, man, you best avoid her.
I'm not sure I care for the way she's standing on this model.
No, she looks...
She's pigeon-toed.
Knock-kneed. Yeah. I was actually noticing it as we were kind of looking at it. I'm like, why? I
like the rest of the pose. The rest of the pose is cool. It's a wonderful model.
Yeah, because she's all like, that's right, on Diva Talks.
But she's pigeon-toed. And I feel like that actually takes something away from the character.
Because it's from some of the stuff that we've learned from the Boom Comics run about Diva Talks and what she went through as a young woman.
So we're gonna
do some red.
Worry about that in a second. We're gonna jump to Mephiston Red as our first highlight. And on all of these, I don't know what you actually call these dangly whatnots on her skirt.
They're plates.
But we're deliberately, even though there's not a lot of raised areas on them, we're deliberately leaving we're deliberately leaving old color behind. Similar to if you watch our One-Eyed Giant video about Cyclopsis. Mm-hmm. Similar to the same brush stroking strategy we use to create the streaks in Cyclopsis. So we're kind of doing vertical up and down lines on those. And then everywhere else that there's a raised area is just getting this Mephiston Red.
That's cool. Now, going back to the Diva Talks thing. We saw in one of the recent comics, probably in the last couple months, that Diva Talks had trained with, most of the other...
Astronema.
Yeah, Astronema and Ecliptor, because hadn't she also been... And she had been taken in by this whole Dark Spectre group, and they treated her like Poopadoop.
I'm looking forward to painting Ecliptor. He's going to be easy.
He's going to be fun. He will be fun. He's going to look like Tron.
So we've got our Reichling Flesh Shade. We're going to wash the gold.
Yeah.
You could do this with Nuln Oil. You could do this with Agrax Earth Shade. You could do it with any brown or black wash you have. It would still work. The reason I specifically went with the Reichling Flesh Shade here is because there's red in it. Mm. And that red mixed with the brown, the way it complements the gold and makes it pop is much better than a straight brown wash or a straight black wash. So anywhere there's gold,
I like to use that one a lot for hair.
it works for hair. It actually works for skin. That's why it's called Reichman Flesh Shade.
Yeah.
But anywhere there's gold, it really is it's gonna leave that reddish brown in the recesses. It's gonna make it pop for the next color. Because again, we're not doing one of our lazy everyman paint jobs here. I know I'm not doing a great job kind of showing how I painted every bit of this either. This was
This was
2
hours. Yeah.
This was only a 2 hour paint. This only took me about 2 hours filming. I had 2 hours of filmed footage
Right.
that we cut down to this 24 minutes or whatever we have. Evil Sun Scarlet, that's going to be our highest shade of red. We're just putting it on the very edges of these plates, and it's going to be the highest highlight for the collar and the cape. But I had 2 hours of footage. This mini didn't take me that long. 2 hours is nothing in painting a miniature. It's not, Chris paints a putty in 10 minutes, which we've done on a previous video.
Right.
But 2 hours is nothing. This was easy. This was an easy paint, and this was a delight of a model to paint, and I was not looking forward to it.
I know. See, I'm very happy that you went with Diva Talks.
Well, you asked me to go with Diva Talks.
Because the one that I'm really can't wait to see what you do with it is
Solar Purple.
No.
Oh,
Nice try though. Is non-gowned Rita.
Oh, the alternate one?
Yeah.
I haven't decided if I'm going to follow the comic color scheme for that or if I'm going to come up with something fun.
I feel like she should get some kind of like crazy cat suit for that. That's like that's Rita's club and wear.
Well, I wasn't looking forward to this one because it was really the first time I have done flesh on these bigger models.
Flesh, and real flesh.
And there's not a lot of...
Big blue monkey flesh.
Well, there's not a lot of... I saw this phrase on Twitter earlier. I'm going to use it. Rippling bulges on her. So we're pulling out our Citadel Liberator Gold, and we're just doing a quick highlight. So again, we're leaving a little bit of that retro armor that's been washed with the Reichman Flesh Shade visible, and we're just doing Liberator Gold on the rest of it. Again, you should be able to see it better when we have the final photo at the end. I saw rippling bulges because most male minis maybe not most, but a lot of male minis are. I don't want to downplay this because it's way worse on women minis.
Oh,
but a lot of the male minis are sexualized as well.
Mm-hmm.
They are your Greek god cut physiques with extra abs. Like,
it is amazing sometimes the number of abs that can be developed on a
male miniature. Now they're not nearly as hypersexualized as women miniatures. So I'm not gonna diminish that, but it's definitely there.
Yeah.
And
I've painted my fair share of them.
When I say rippling bulges on a male miniature, you know exactly what the look I'm talking about is.
Oh yeah, it's the pecs that are like
that half pecs.
Yeah.
So here's a fun step. We took Kador Red Highlight, which is an orange, and we just put a dot of it at the 3 corner points of those plates. Each of those plates, the very bottom, it kind of comes to a point. And then the corner edges, each gets just a dot of this Kador red orange.
Mm-hmm.
And what that's going to do from a distance is it's going to provide a pop on these plates. And you'll see it again in the final still photo at the end of this. But look, you can see what I'm doing with the brush there. It's a thin brush. It's literally just a dot. Very, very simple.
Dot'll do ya.
But I'll tell you what, the plus side of those rippling bulges is they're so easy to highlight.
Oh, yeah. It's
whether you do it with
so
a wash,
fun.
Whether you do it with a wash or a contrast or a traditional highlight, any of those methods is easy.
I love dry brushing that flesh.
Dry brushing works too. Any of them is easy because there's so much up and down on it. Mm-hmm. There's so many raised areas.
Mm-hmm.
There's not any of that here. She's more realistically proportioned for the most part.
I mean, give or take.
So here's that same purple we used earlier. This is not mixed with anything now, and we're just putting just a little dab of it. Very similar to the Kador Orange Highlight. Barely any of it, just kind of a little line on the skirt there, just to give it one extra layer of pop. Because like I said, we're not doing our everyman paint job super easy miniature in this go. We're doing something a little more complex. So again, we're pulling out that electric blue. We're doing the same thing, just itty bitty little lines on the corset. We don't want this to be an overpowering highlight. We want it to be an accent highlight, something that makes the whole thing pop, but you don't look at it and go, that's a really light blue. No, we want you to look at it and still see the mid-tone as the main color.
Right.
So when you're doing that, the trick is just very, very, very little.
Look, this is my favorite part. Chris did eyeballs for me.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Eyes are awful.
One of her mask eye is black. Her other one is white, and we did go ahead and tackle the eyeballs, and we also went ahead and painted the base the Abaddon black, like we always do, because she still needs to fit in with the rest of it.
Even though she's just going to be that little bit of extra.
We're going back to our Evil Sun Scarlet. We're giving her some lipstick this time.
I mean, because Diva
she's got those bright red lips, and actually her lips are well sculpted on there. It's actually difficult to do with simple style painting. It's difficult to do lips on, well, anybody really, but it's difficult to do lips on women, especially when you have there's plenty of countess type women models.
Oh, yeah.
That you figure they would have made up lips. It's hard to do because their lips are not well sculpted. Divatoxes are notable and prominent, but it's also a 54 millimeter mini, which makes it easier to do. We're going to pull out our Runefang Steel next. And the Runefang Steel, which is a silver, is a wonderful highlight for this gold. You put it on the very edges of the gold. Just a little bit, just a whisper.
It looks like the sheen.
Yes.
It looks like, if you hit metal with a light, it kind of, that one extreme zing. Because that was good radio.
That was a zing.
A zing.
Felt like if you smile too much, your teeth are too pearly.
Yeah. So there.
So again, you can see I'm using my really fine brush. You'll also notice my finger position when holding the model. I do have paint handles I could put these models on. I think I've said before, I deliberately don't, because the everyman painting philosophy, not everybody has a painting handle. You could use an actual painting handle. You could use a stick with putty on it. Some people magnetize a stick and then put magnets on the minis. All of those are doable. I want to try to show you minis holding them as much as possible, because some people just don't have that. But you'll notice anywhere that has a contrast paint, namely the boots and gloves and the head, I'm not touching with my fingers. Contrast can rub off before you seal it. I'm just not doing it. I'll hold the base. I'll let the red of the cloak touch my hand, but not the rest of it. Be careful with your contrast. You don't want, kind of things to go south on you here.
Yep.
So then we just do another quick second coat of Abaddon Black. We've shown this a million times before, how my first coat's never thick enough, and I don't want it to be, because if it's thick enough, it's thick enough for one coverage, it's going to be overly globby.
Yeah.
And as per usual, I always stop and think, do I really want black bases on these minis? And I remember I've painted so many of them, it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I actually saw today on Instagram somebody who had done grass and stuff like that on their Power Rangers minis.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of those.
And I was like, oh, those do look so cool. And but I'm like,
but remember the functionality that we have them with. So our Screamer Pink, because she is a boss.
Yes, she is. She is the boss.
So remember our functionality.
Right.
We're going to seal these, and ours have to get resealed every couple of months, because we've got a 7-year-old playing the game, and those grubby fingers do wear off the sealer. And that's what sealer does. Sealer's not meant to be permanent. It will wear off. It's just meant to protect the paint.
It's almost like a car wax.
Grass and sand is going to fall off when we play with them. So there we go. We've got a finished Divatox.
She's so awesome. Thank you, my love.
No problem. I was glad we could do something kind of extra and kind of fun for you.
Definitely going to be a vampire.
But you can see kind of all the different highlight lines around her. You can see the silver. You can see a little bit of blue in those gloves and boots. And I think she came out really good. So I'm going to go seal this. Like and subscribe for more videos. Hit the bell button for notification. And thank you for watching Tony Entertainment. Happy birthday, Bree.
Thank you. Good night.